Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew B. Lloyd, a reviewer and news editor at DC Comics News.
And I'm so excited to welcome Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad today. I appreciate them for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to answer some questions. We're going to talk about your work today. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really good to be here. Even though by being here, I mean in our living room.
And I am in my kitchen as well. So it's the wonder of the modern world. Well, first off, I've really been enjoying both Wonder Woman and the Midnighter series that you did in action. Thank you both for your hard work on those books. I feel like there's a lot of great stuff at DC right now, and these are two series or examples of it. How did you guys get these gigs, and did you pitch ideas, or did DC come to you for those two projects?
It kind of all spun out of the Future State stuff that they did earlier this year. Jamie S. Rich contacted us last year asking if we wanted to do a Midnighter for Future State. And it was like a 2-issue story. And, of course we had an idea. And then it just kind of spun out of control. We were, when we did the Future State stuff, it was like an alternate timeline. Midnighters in the future. And then there's some time travel involved, of course. So we're like, what if the wrong one came back? And then we had to oops, we have to do a Midnighter in continuity now because we messed things up in Future State.
It was a bit by design.
A little bit.
Becky is always really busy with work, but for me, with COVID, I just saw so many opportunities and projects that I was really excited about kind of dry up or get postponed. So when Jamie got in touch with this great opportunity to write this character that we love, I definitely do feel like I might have even said it to Becky. I was like, I want to create such a broken problem where we have to do more with this. So a good way to do that. And also I wanted it to feel like it had consequence and that it was not going to get seen as like, oh, this was just this weirdo one-off thing. So I wanted to tie it into regular continuity and be very clear that, hey, this is part of the books that you've been reading. So a good way to do that was, like Becky said, do some time traveling and
mess it all up
and create a big mess so that we were able to continue the story in the back of action, and then finally to finish it up with the Midnighter annual that came out.
Yeah.
It feels like it just came out, but I'm sure it's been months since it came out. And we were lucky to have Michael Avon Oming and Taki Soma be like part of that journey with us. It was very much a family affair. It was tons of fun.
So much fun. And Wonder Woman spun out of that somehow.
Oh yeah, there's Wonder Woman too.
Well, after we did, so we were working on the Future State stuff. We had like a few meetings and.
Well, there was Immortal was part of Future
State.
Right,
and it was after we started on the Midnighter stuff that Jamie was like, hey, do you guys want to take over the Wonder Woman for Future State too? And of course we were like, yeah, sure, of course.
And kind of the marching orders were it's Wonder Woman, but it's way in the future, okay? And
we were like, okay.
You're like, how way in the future? And he was like, I don't know, like pretty far. So we got off that phone call and we were gonna put together our idea for it, and we just were like, what if it's like way in the future?
What if it's at the end of
time?
And as far in the future as
what does that look like, and how does that feel? And how it looks and feels is a kind of a sad meditative book that I don't think anyone at DC expected, but I think they liked it quite a bit, certainly enough to have us continue to tell Diana stories in the regular ongoing series. And we found out while we were doing like a digital con, and it was right before we were about to go live on there. Jamie was like, okay, yeah, we're going to go through, we're going to ask some questions, and then at the end we'll announce that Michael and Becky are taking over writing Wonder Woman ongoing, and then we'll do a sign off and all will be good. And he's like, all right, and 3, 2, and we're live. And I was just unable to speak. My jaw was on the floor. I was like, I cannot believe that we're writing Wonder Woman now. I just kept looking at Becky. Like, here I am doing this thing for a convention and totally just at a rare loss of words. It was beautiful.
That never happens.
It never happens. I talk way too much. That's why I write, because if no one's around to listen to me talk, I'll just write. That way it's like sending my ideas out as like a time bomb.
Well, you got to have a way to get those thoughts and ideas out, because if not, you'll stand there talking to yourself in the room, and eventually someone will find you and have questions.
That has happened also.
That has happened.
We were really lucky with Immortal Wonder Woman because before we started writing the script, we found out Jen Bartel was going to be the artist, and she's like one of my favorite artists working right now anyway. So we were able to like really tailor the whole book to like, knowing the artist who's going to work on it and being so familiar with her work. All of a sudden, like the images became much more clear when we were writing it. So that was it was such like a serendipitous kind of book. So it's very special to us.
That's cool. Well, leading into the regular Wonder Woman series, how much did you know about the whole ascension to godhood when you took on the series and deciding what you were going to do with it? Because at the end of Dark Knight's Metal, she's supposed to die and she's dead and ascending. And how did that affect what you were going to do? Or was it they said, okay, now you got to bring her out of this? Or were you like, can we bring her out of this?
Yeah, it was that was all we knew actually going in, because I don't think Scott had finished writing Death Metal when we started writing the book. So all we knew was that she was going to die, and that was it. So we were like, just based on that, the whole idea of like, well, what if she ascended to the wrong afterlife? Of course, she's supposed to pop up in Olympus, but what if she like pops out in Asgard? And that was like the whole core idea that we kind of built the whole thing around. And then we knew for her 80th anniversary, she's got to come back to Earth. So we had like 9 issues because of double shipping, of course. So
they didn't say that she needed to be back on Earth. I think we knew in our hearts, like as Wonder Woman fans, for her 80th anniversary,
she's got to come home.
She got to be home, but yeah, so 9 issues later.
Yeah, that was kind of how we planned the whole arc, was like, okay, we've got 9 issues to tell the story of her like having an adventure in the afterworlds. And we kind of used Grant Morrison's map of the multiverse as like a road map of like, oh, here's some cool places we can go visit. And like, of course.
You did visit some cool places. You definitely did.
There were places we wanted to go to that we couldn't. Like, we wanted to do endless stuff, and right off the bat, we were like, we want to do the endless, and they're like, no. Our editor Brittany didn't even ask. She's like, no, you probably can't do that.
Yeah.
That requires Neil Gaiman to say yes, right?
I know. I was like, let me try to get DMs real quick. Let me see if we can get an okay.
I bet you we could have.
I didn't try.
Becky's got a good relationship with him. I'm sure he would have been like, okay, you're gonna handle it well.
Well, we couldn't get that, so we did the next best thing. We got Jill Thompson to draw like a
that was a
book. So that was
what a wonderful issue.
That was fun.
And that's part of the journey too, is with the double shipping. We knew that Travis wasn't going to be he's a human being. He's not going to be able to draw all these issues.
Is he a human being? God, he draws like a god.
Yeah. Only Jack Kirby could have handled that. Jack Kirby could have handled 2, because he was probably drawing 4 books at a time at one point a month. So
seriously,
he'd have been fine, but he's the only one.
Yeah. Anyone I know who's drawn books that have double shipped are like have come out the other side worse for it, and I wouldn't want to put that on anyone.
Even doing a monthly book
it's stressful physically and mentally. There's a lot that you just even just drawing a monthly book is hard enough. So
so it was exciting to be like, okay, this first part we've got Travis for a while. We can build out this section, and then it just kind of lent itself naturally to this this kind of beat that we wanted, which was things start going faster and faster. She's moving through these elements faster and faster. There's like 4 issues in this one place, then 2 in this other, and then 1, and then all of a sudden in a single issue you're seeing, 5 or 6 different elements of the multiverse. It was fun and interesting to tell a story that we're using the pacing of the story itself to kind of create, hopefully, this tension of, okay, things are doing really cooking now.
Yeah, every issue she's like moving a little further to Earth, you know.
And it's also going to be really exciting for us to see how people like it now that we've got her back in more familiar ground, and we have a very different kind of way of telling this story now. It'll be quite different with Diana back home. There's a lot. It's not as if she's gonna like leave this plane of existence and not have to deal with the fallout of things. Like, no, everything here, she's gonna be stuck here until Scott Snyder kills her again or something.
Well, something you said sort of leads me to one of the questions I was going to ask. You said you knew in your heart you had to get her back to Earth for her 80th anniversary, and my question was tomorrow, when we're recording this, tomorrow, Wonder Woman 780 comes out, and we all know she returns officially in that issue. That's not a spoiler. But how important do you think is that cycle of reinvention to classic return for characters like Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman that have been around for so long, and there's always a constant sort of, not necessarily revamping, but representing the classic after some sort of journey or some kind of major change? How important do you think that is to keep the characters fresh? I don't know. I struggle with it personally sometimes, but since you're actually in the midst of doing that exact thing, what is your take on that sort of thing?
I always think of superhero books as like modern mythology, and mythology are, stories that you're just telling over and over. And of course it has to change for, new generations coming along, picking up these books for the first time. Wonder Woman in particular has had such a varied history. Even her origin has been completely changed, changed from what it was originally. And I think for her character especially, because she's changed so much, it almost makes sense to keep that tradition alive of like redefining who she is. But also at the same time, like honoring everything that's come before. So there's like this kind of tightrope walk that we're doing,
Yeah, I think Wonder Woman has been presented in a lot of different ways, and that gives us a lot of room to be able to tell a lot of different types of stories with her and have them be consistent with the character. It also creates a burden in that we would like, when you think of Diana, we would like you to have a very particular vision of this woman, of this incredibly powerful being that is kind enough to come help us out. And how we do that and how we reinforce that element of our character is really tricky, because there's people that have connected with very different types of things about her character. Some people like her as like kind of cold-blooded killer, or like a warrior woman who will cut off the head of everyone.
She's like a goddess of war, and at the same time she's also like a god of peace and diplomacy.
So some people like that bit where it's like her waxing philosophical and being kind to animals and all this. Some people like her, dressed as a mod, calling Superman a cop. I love it all. And I think there's room for it all. I think that's like the cool thing about her is her moral code is very much like our own. It's one that kind of moves and bends and works different in different situations. It's one that takes into consideration the world around her, people's motivations. It's not black and white. It's not this weird libertarian, I am the knight and I'm gonna clean up this town type of thing. And I love that type of thing too. But what I love about Diana and what I love about telling these stories is being able to explore what it looks like for somebody who can screw up and can be emotionally involved in something and can have these high morals and still manage to blow it. To me, that's what's exciting about Wonder Woman, and that's the thing that hopefully people who, no matter what they like about Wonder Woman, hopefully that'll be the thing that they find in our stories that works for them. Will be this thing about somebody that you can identify with, even though they're going to live forever and they can fly and whip you and do all kinds of...
Was that part of the whole, I guess, the overarching concept of Afterworlds was trying to connect with those different aspects of the character in different scenarios? Obviously, Asgard is more of the warrior woman, chop everybody's head off, because that's Asgard, especially the way presented as in the story. But that's more Asgard, whereas other aspects are seen to play into other parts of her other worlds that she visits, play in other parts of her characters.
Definitely. We definitely had like each one had, even the Graveyard of the Gods with the whole riddle thing, which was super fun to write. It was like, she didn't fight anyone. She just answered a couple riddles, but it was like the idea that like, okay, here's a character that has many strengths, and these are different stories that play to those strengths. And also like the cyclical nature of comic books and like fandom in general too. We're doing a lot of lip
there was some meta commentary in there. A big part of it was we started with like that thing you aren't supposed to do, which is she doesn't remember who she is. Like, okay, another one of these type of stories. But that was an effort to be able to present her without having to be beholden to these rules, without having to be like, oh, we're going to honor 80 years of legacy. And no, she can't really remember who she is. She's in the wrong afterlife. She's not. And even when she realizes like, oh, I'm in an afterlife, nothing matters. You're dead. Like you aren't gonna die again. Yeah. Also, you're in a place where you don't know anybody and nobody knows you. And we take like a little vacation or something. You go away for a long weekend and you feel that sense of freedom when you're in a weird town staying at a strange motel. You feel like, hey, maybe I do stay up until 2:00 in the morning eating bad food and watching murder files on TV. That's kind of that's what we were doing early on in the story. And then of course we want to make sure that for October 21st, 80th anniversary of Wonder Woman, we want to have her be fully realized, have remembered who she is completely, having displayed through this journey, through Afterworlds, like Becky was saying, these various strengths of hers, not the least of which being that she can win fights without even fighting, that some fights aren't kicking and punching. And frankly, some of my favorite comic books don't involve any type of violence at all. It's kind of neat to work on a mainstream comic where we can take an issue and have it be about philosophy or poetry or something like that, and have it feel consistent with the lineage of Wonder Woman.
Excellent. This goes right to the next question. I'm most often drawn in by characters, and when writers take the time to develop, flesh out, explore characters, and it seems like, is that a big part of how you approach writing? At least I get that from what I've read.
Definitely, that's a huge part of it. Figuring out like who Diana is, not just for us, but in general, was like, one of the most important things about starting working on this book. And yeah, I don't know.
I'm a sucker for plot, you know. I can't deny it. I love twisty, weird things, and sometimes in some stories it's okay to not really to have the actors within the story. It sometimes it's not even important as long as the plot is compelling. That's not the case with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is a book about a woman named Diana and how she engages with the world around her. What's really exciting about Wonder Woman, though, and especially with getting her back home, is she's got such a colorful cast of friends and family and enemies.
And her enemies are so good.
So yeah, it's that's really exciting. Is I've got these like volumes and volumes of Wonder Woman comics and encyclopedias about her and novels about her, and just dipping in and knowing, oh, like we can explore all these things. I feel like we'll never run out of ideas because there's so much cool stuff there just like waiting to be revitalized. And I think a lot of Wonder Woman fans, new and old, are going to be excited to see like some of these characters as they start popping up again. And so in 780, we threw a bunch of characters in there. We hope to explore a ton more in the days to come.
Well, having read 780 already, I'm excited to see a lot of those characters and hope to see them explored, because my face was smiling the whole time with all the different characters and surprises you brought forward with that. So without spoilers, obviously, do you have a goal for your Wonder Woman run as far as a length of time? Do you plan on being it for a while? Is it an indefinite time right now, or how you guys know what's happening and how it's going to end?
We have plans for like the next year, I think, like a good solid year of material, and then we have like vague ideas of what, of course, after that, the next logical step. So we're happy to be around as long as people like us, I think. As long as our editors like us.
Yeah, that's the thing. If sales are looking okay and people aren't mad at us, and especially like you got to make sure that the editors are happy. If we're able to balance those things, I hate the thought of one day being like, well, our time here is done. I think we'll be able to end it well. I think I've got a real strong idea of how I would
You do?
put a pin in it.
I have no idea.
But I don't even want, like, I don't want to talk to Becky about that. I don't, like, I'll do it when we're told we're done. Or when we feel like we've done enough, and that there's another person out there who's going to do Diana a service by providing a different perspective. That would be ideal, would be for us to get to a point where we're like, hey, she needs a freshness, she needs somebody else in there, and that would be great to leave on our own mark. But yeah, there's tons to be done with Diana. I think we kind of showed up wanting to further cement elements of her character, and we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, she's a character that, like, you could ask anyone on the street, like, what's Batman's origin or what's Superman's origin? Everybody knows. You say, like, what's Wonder Woman's origin? And people are going to be like, I don't know. I don't know this. She came from this island of Amazon women. Maybe if they've seen the movies, they know about the mascara. But even that, I think, is like, there's no solid story for her that is ingrained in the great subconscious, and I think that leaves a lot of room for, people on Wonder Woman. It's daunting, but it's also like exciting to be a part of this legacy that is still being defined,
Yeah, that's part of why I've read so many writers have been like, Wonder Woman is hard to write or is impossible to write. And part of it is because, like I was saying, there's so many different things about Wonder Woman that the fandom will gravitate toward this thing or that thing. Our job is to kind of unify these elements, to validate these elements, to please
Everybody.
a wide variety to please a wide variety of readers. And there's a way to do it. Like, there really is. We've just got a lot of work to do to get there. And
There are some writers that I've read in the past that have a way of bringing in disparate elements and bringing them together into a unified theory to support a character, and they don't throw things away. They find a way to integrate them, and that's something I really like. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're going for.
yeah,
That's exactly what we're trying to do.
it's so terrible when things get thrown away.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine, it would be terrible if one day somebody comes along and they're like, we're gonna scrap that Cloonan Conrad run.
Get rid of six.
Yeah.
No. No.
I don't like that. I love the idea of everything existing and having value and finding a way to make it make sense and to make it work. And that's the great Gordian knot that we're gonna be working on for the entirety of our run on this thing. Hopefully we loosen it up a bit so that it makes sense.
That sounds very exciting. I look forward to all of that coming. I've enjoyed everything so far, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. What's it like writing together? How do you approach that as opposed to writing alone or separately, a single project as opposed to collaborating? What does that look like?
It starts with a discussion. That discussion turns into a full-on argument. And then, no, it's delightful. It's easy and it's fun. It's really about getting excited together about something and impressing one another. We share in every part of this collaboration, from the inception of the idea to the execution of the final script. And it's a lot of fun, bouncing a draft back and forth and seeing different things kind of come to life, things that I wouldn't do on my own. I feel confident in, because I know, like, oh, Becky will clean this bit up. she'll fix this. And in the various versions of the drafts, there will be little notes to each other, and like, hey, I need you to like.
Can you make this sound good?
Can you make this feel less droll? So yeah,
it's good to have two eyes on a thing. Yeah, it took us a little bit to kind of iron out how best we work. And I think every issue we're still learning about that, how each other, just the way that we communicate is, with the way we work on stories and approach things is totally different. So we've had to like kind of iron out this way of passing things back and forth that makes sense for both of us.
So there's no Lennon McCartney sneaking down in the middle of the night and changing something and sending it off and saying, "Oh no, this is the final version."
There's been moments where I've been like, this line is so bad. Can we fix it? And they'll realize that I'm the one who wrote the line. And conversely, there's also moments where I've been like, this part's so awesome, good job with that, and Becky will be like, did I write that, or did you write that?
I'd be like, you wrote that one.
You're
patting yourself on the back.
It becomes a thing where there's no real sense of ownership at the end of it, not a personal ownership. It's almost like it's something you were part of, but it just kind of happened. And while I look at these books and I'm like, wow, I can't believe we've done this. It just feels like it just happens. It's very strange. It's unlike writing on your own, where you're toiling and you're like chipping away at that wall and you're slowly putting the pieces together and figuring out how to make this thing work. Working with another brain, another great brain like Becky is, I don't know. It's really hard to describe it. You just wake up one day and there's a comic with your name on it, and you know that you were there for it.
But you're not sure how it happened.
Yeah, because you can no longer remember, like, did I come up with that? Did she come up with that? Is that a thing that, like, the character woke up and told us, like, hey, I'm Siegfried and I must be, like, really good looking and funny, or I'm Steve and I demand to be part of this story. Get me, put me in, coach. It just kind of happens. It's different. It's very different. I love working with Becky, but I don't think I could do this with too many people.
I love collaborating though. I'm a big
She's
collaborator.
got a history of doing it with Gotham Academy and stuff. For me, I've never collaborated with another writer, and I'm very thankful that it's with Becky, who I can be completely honest with, and sometimes I can be awful and say, like, say this will not change. This is my great idea, and then it'll come out and they'll be like, man, why did I die on that hill?
Why'd you die on that hill? It sounds like a lot like I've heard some musicians talk about collaborating, when you have songwriting partners that they don't know who came up with what part, but they were there and I know it happened, but I can't place this or that. And so they just go, it's us, that kind of thing.
That's very much what this is.
It's different. People that are familiar with Becky writing solo understands that when she writes with me, it's going to feel different. And same with my work. Working with Becky, it's a different voice. It's a shared voice, and we're just lucky that it works out.
It's working. I will confirm it's working.
Thank you.
Becky, this is more of a question for you. As an artist, how do you feel being an artist impacts your work as a writer, especially if you're not writing for yourself to draw? Do you think you're approaching things differently than maybe Michael would? And do you ever want to draw what you've just written in these kinds of situations?
Well, I have a hard time drawing superhero books, so I don't think I would want to work on something that I've written for Marvel or DC just because I just have a hard time with I don't know what it is. Like, there's a disconnect there, and it's a little more difficult. I think the pressure maybe gets to me. I always think about like an artist's style and how they would if I can envision how they would lay out a page, it makes it easier for me to kind of understand how I would lay it out. So I try to keep that in my mind, like knowing who's drawing a book will impact how I think about a scene, and try to play to artist strengths and things like that. And then, of course, trying to be nice to them with like in terms of what is on the page. And of course, I know we threw some really difficult things at like Travis especially, and he just knocked it out of the park. But there will be times when it's like, the 779 was done in like pretty much a void, and it was like, Travis a break. Like he's drawing so much. There's so much happening in this, so many characters, so many nuanced expressions, like fighting. So it's like, how can we ease this up a little bit for him, make it just fun to draw, more fun. I don't know. I was lucky to work with a lot of great writers too, so it's like having a lot of experience working on scripts that I found very easy to read. So I try and like implement that in what I write. I don't know. It's
Becky's good at because she has a very visual mind. In the script, if I write something that maybe wouldn't work out as well, she can often visualize how she would draw the page and kind of adjust certain things to make it more sense, make it have more sense.
Yeah, sometimes
on
if
a
it's
visual
like
tip.
like a long panel description, I'll try and put like the most important things at the very beginning. So it's like, here's the things so you know what you're getting into, and then kind of describe like if there's an emotional thing happening, like what those characters are feeling, or if you're describing a scene that's happening, I try not to put too much information in there, so it's like you don't want to overwhelm, and I get easily overwhelmed as an artist. So I try and keep it so it's like if someone's, if I'm writing a scene that's describing an action happening, make sure to make it that like visually it makes sense in your head. Like if you can't see the character's expression on their face, I won't describe the expression on their face, but I'll describe instead what they're feeling, so the artist doesn't think like, oh, I'm reading this and I have to draw their face but their back is turned to me. Like how do I, you know what I mean? Like do this thing
That's
where
a
it's
good
like,
point.
there's just little things that hitch me up. I try and like keep an eye out for, so that if I'm, handing this off to an artist, I would, if I was getting the script, I wouldn't be like losing my mind trying to like draw this picture. I get caught up in like little details as an artist, so I think that's what I keep an eye out for in a script. But I don't know, I think some of it's just like going with, your instincts. Michael's got great instincts for drama and story, so it's easy to follow his lead, when we're collaborating.
She's lying. He does all the writing. I get to sign my name on it.
That is blatantly untrue. Michael does all the heavy lifting. Like I don't know if I'd be able to keep up a monthly schedule if we weren't collaborating.
I'm quick. Of the two of us, I'm faster as a writer.
I'm very slow.
So oftentimes if something's got to get done, I can quickly, get it roughed out, and then Becky will fix it.
Gotcha. Got it.
So sometimes the breakdown of labor goes that way. Like I'll get in with some broad strokes and get it over to Becky so that she can refine it and build it out. And again, that works really well sometimes, and it works really well especially because with Becky being an artist, she knows these things like, hey, this is a broken panel description, this isn't going to work, this needs to get reworked. So yeah, again, it's great to collaborate, and it's great that Becky has like this fantastic background in drawing lots and lots of pages of comics and knowing how to make it happen.
Changing gears a little bit, Michael, do you feel your previous career informs your work at all?
Yeah, very much so. I worked for 20 years in the mental health industry at every level that you can imagine, from macro to micro, everything from working in direct care with people with pretty extreme behavioral difficulties to working with training staff and doing mental wellness assessments on people in facilities. What it did was it gave me a greater sense of empathy, which as a writer, that's one of the core talents and core skills that every writer needs to get down, even like before you start messing around with stuff like grammar and spelling and story structure. You have to be empathetic almost to a painful degree. You have to care about people and care about even people that might not seem deserving of care, because it's through that understanding that you're able to build characters and that you're able to insert something real into what you're doing. And Becky mentioned the great word drama. Drama doesn't exist unless there's something worth feeling dramatic about, and that always comes to hopefully you can get the people that are reading the books to care about the same kind of things that you care about, and to surprise them with their ability to be compassionate. We have to hone this empathy, and that's the thing that I take from my previous career into the career that I'm doing now. It's the same thing. I'm still working with damaged quote damaged people.
Oh, thank you.
They're just fictional now.
Well, I mean, some of those characters are more damaged than others. Let me tell you.
That's true. And some are just better at hiding it. So we'll see what that means in the future.
Dun da da.
Yeah.
Well, instead of the future, I want to turn the clock back just a little bit. And I just want to say this, and you can respond however you wish. The first thing I reviewed that you guys did together was that issue of Doom Patrol a few years back that I absolutely loved. And when I shared the review, Michael, you were just ecstatic about my review, and I what a great issue. I just had to bring that up and just to sell what a great issue it was. But what went into that? How did that? Because that was just sort of out of nowhere in the story. That run was broken up a little bit. I guess Gerard had a lot of stuff going on and it wasn't coming out on time. But what an issue you guys did.
Well, thank you. You've been with us from the very beginning. that we did that, and we did a short Tomb of Dracula thing for Bizarre Adventures over at Marvel.
Yeah.
And those were our two first things where we collaborated.
And I drew both of them.
And she drew both of them. So Becky art fans, check it out.
That was Jamie S. Rich again who contacted us for Doom. Actually, we contacted him for Doom Patrol. I tell a lie. But Jamie's been a huge part of me coming back to DC recently. It kind of happened. Wait, you tell the story. You're better at the story than I am.
The way that I know it is, and I don't know how much of this is just fancy. Becky was at a con. She was at a convention with Gerard, and it was at Thought Bubble in England with Gerard, and they were just having a couple drinks at a ye old pub or something, and Becky was like, "Hey, I really like what you're doing with Doom Patrol," and my Becky and I weren't dating or anything at the time, so I was her friend. She was like, "My friend Michael loves Doom Patrol. He's always talking about Doom Patrol, and he can't stop."
That's true.
And he has this idea for the story, and so Gerard was like, "Well, what's the story?" And Becky didn't so much pitch him the story as much as she told him about the game that we would play over the phone, which was we both own these big thick collections of the Morrison case run on Doom Patrol. Love them. And Becky would ask a question, I'd flip it open and magically bring my finger down on a panel, and maybe your question would be like, how, is my day gonna go well? And I'd point at the panel, and it would be Robot Man saying, absolutely, I need oil or something. It would be like kind of relative, but it almost always kind of worked. So she told Gerard about this and how
it was called Ask Doom Patrol,
and how this was going to be a story one day. We would take this thing and we would make it a story.
And this was at the very beginning. I don't think Gerard's first trade had come out yet for that book. Like it was at like the very beginning of when he had taken over, and a couple issues were out.
And he said, "Well, you guys should do that, shouldn't you?" And then I got a call from Becky saying, "Do you want to write Doom Patrol?" And I was like, "Let me flip open the comic and see." So yeah, we wrote it, and it went through a number of different editors' hands because a lot of time was going by, and Young Animal was living its whole existence, from inception until its demise. And the whole time I was like, man, this thing just is never going to happen. Like, it's never going to happen. And then finally it did happen. And it changed my life. It was and it was and remains one of the most important things that ever happened to me. And it's so cool that it was Doom Patrol, because that is such a formative book for me. I have Doom Patrol tattoos. I like grew up being like, if I was ever going to be a superhero, of course I'd end up in Doom Patrol because I'd be a weirdo. So yeah, that's the version that I tell people, and I think it's the truth. I think that it was Becky talking with Gerard that made it happen.
Yeah. And then Jamie was at that convention too, so I think I just immediately went and like cornered Jamie and was like, Jamie, you've got this great idea. Like,
so yeah, Jamie is and has been a very critical figure, certainly in my growth as a writer. I owe him quite a bit. And I didn't like him at all when I first met him. I didn't like him at all. I met him and I was like, Becky, I think Jamie's a jerk or something. She was like, oh, everyone says that about Jamie.
I was like, oh, that's just Jamie. Like, you'll get used to him.
Well, let's be sure to tag him in the post when this goes up.
He knows what I think of him.
That was just a phenomenal issue. I mean, I was enjoying that whole run anyways, but that issue was just phenomenal in my opinion. And I mean, I gush over it. It was one of those things. It's like, it's one of those single issues you can take out of a larger run and go, just read this one issue, because even if you have no idea what the heck's going on in the rest of the run, it doesn't matter for your enjoyment and soul healing because of it. So read it.
It was definitely like a love letter to comics, and a love letter specifically to the Doom Patrol comics.
Yes.
And like all the ideations of that run tried to pay tribute to.
Yeah.
Well, how about we go forward next? Batgirls. We've got we can't really talk about any details, obviously, because no issues have yet to hit the stands. But we're starting out with some issues of Batman as the second feature. Personally, I'm excited about it because, well, you guys have been doing great work and I've been enjoying it. But I love Barbara Gordon. I love it when she plays the role as a mentor. Even if Barbara is supposed to be the iconic Batgirl, I've said numerous times that to me the iconic Barbara Gordon is Oracle. And I feel like I'm sensing there's going to be a little bit of a Birds of Prey feel with it. I reflect back to Stephanie Brown's Batgirl series before the New 52. Amongst those other things are coming together, and from what I'm seeing and getting, these are things that are getting me excited about it. So one of the reasons I'm looking forward to it are those kinds of things. Like I said, we're starting in Batman, then we get its own title in December. What can you tell us about it that you're free to, and of course, how did this come about?
Another neat story of how it came to be. How it came to be is maybe not as exciting as like hanging out with a rock star and being like, my friend likes Doom Patrol. How this one went was I couldn't sleep one night, and an email came through at like 2 a.m. or something. And it was our now editor on the project, Jessica Chen. She's a bit of a night owl, and so she was like doing her thing, and the email just said, hey, you and Becky want to write Batgirls? Like it's gonna be a whole thing, and we'd love to have you. I was like, this is outstanding! What great news! But while I may be able to make certain judgments solo, I do not speak for Becky. So you people that message me all the time, asking me questions about Becky or whatever, I cannot answer these questions. We're collaborators, but I cannot speak for her.
Yeah, and don't ask me either because I don't know.
She doesn't want to answer. So I desperately wanted to be like, yeah, we're totally gonna do Batgirls, but I had to wait. It was 2 a.m. I knew Becky probably wasn't gonna be up till like 7 or 8 the next day. And I was not going to sleep a wink between. So I just dug out some Batgirls comics and did some reading and started dreaming and daydreaming about what we could do. And then when Becky got up, I was like, hey, have you checked your email? And she was like, which one? I've got like hundreds of unread emails I gotta go through.
My shame.
And I was like, look for one that's about Batgirls. She found it and she was like, oh, sick. We're going to do it, right? And I was like, yeah. So that's how that came to be. We came on without knowing super much about what the status quo was going to be in Gotham when we really got rolling. We found out about this job months and months ago, but we just didn't know what was going to be going on in Gotham. And so much of the book is about the city and about the interaction of the different moving pieces in the city.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about Gotham is like the stories are all connected. You know, you can find a through line. Yeah. And it like a ripple that happens in one book will affect all the others, which is exciting and also like terrifying thing to come onto a new book with, having to like learn all this stuff. It's like moving to a new city, you know?
Yeah. So the thing that we kind of did was we came up with the idea for the second. We knew like, between when we really start going on the first part, and now, like, things can change radically in Gotham. So we kind of came up with an idea for the second arc. And then as it came closer to time for us to start really working germinely on Batgirls and what that's going to look and feel like, by then we knew, okay, we're going to launch during Fear State. We want to do things that kind of feed into that and play with what's going on in Gotham. So that at least in the backups, it feels really cohesive. And we set up a scenario where Babs, Cass, and Steph are going to be stuck together. And we came up with a pretty cool way to do that. And I'm not going to say what that is, but in our backups start in Batman 115.
It's out in November.
It's out this month in October.
That's like a week or two.
And I think Batman's double shipping, so 116 will be out shortly after that, and then our third one in 117, and then bango, we're on to the series. For people that maybe are feeling like, oh, this sounds like you really have to read all the Batman books and you gotta like know all about Gotham and this and that, that's not going to be the case. For our book, we're trying to give it its own, trying to give it its own kind of vibe and everything, and to keep it connected with the rest of the Bat family titles. But it's important to us that you don't have to buy every single.
Yeah, that's the tightrope that you walk, is like how to make the book a easy jumping on point for new readers, but also like people who are buying, more Batman and Gotham books, how to keep them, how to keep it up to date with everything else that's going on. So it's
you might have a richer experience if you're
reading Nightwing too or something.
Nightwing and Batman.
But everybody really should be reading Nightwing anyways right now, because that is just fantastic. So there's no excuse not to be reading Nightwing. I've told you, you've seen the images by Bruno Redondo on Twitter. You need to be reading that thing.
Yeah, it's really it's daunting to be shoulder to shoulder with that book, because it is so roundly good and such a powerful. There's things going on in that book that, as a fan, I'm jealous that somebody's like doing it so well. But it's also cool because like now we get to like be in there and be in the mix and see like, hey, can we rock it like Tom Taylor is rocking it right now?
And it's cool to share a character, Barbara, of course. It's nice to be able to have that connectivity between the two books, and to be able to like share ideas with Tom is like exciting and a lot of fun.
Easy person to work with. We share an editor, so it makes it easy to keep everything in line and keep it feeling good. So Yeah, I don't want to like necessarily hitch our cart to the back of the Nightwing Express, but if you like Nightwing, check out Batgirls. Yeah,
Well, I mean,
I'll do it.
if you like Nightwing and Barbara Gordon, you should definitely be reading Batgirls. I mean,
Definitely.
that's a no-brainer in my opinion. But what's it like to have to collaborate on something? I mean, with Wonder Woman, you had to go from what's just happened to her in Death Metal and all that, and here you're actually writing the character concurrently in a separate book with someone else. What kind of challenges does that present?
That Jessica Chen, she keeps everything moving along, quickly and efficiently. She'll send us everything that we need to know. She'll make sure that we have PDFs of or a copy of the script so we can look it over and make sure everything jives. We will do group calls. We do group calls, with Wonder Woman too. And in this, it's like, the same thing where if you're working with a group of people that are all doing stories in the same place, you don't just need to know what other people are doing, but it'll help inform your story, because you never know what someone's going to say, throw out a character or a plot point and it's like, oh, that's great, I want to use something like that in our story or something. There's a lot of like this kind of collaboration that goes on that's I think very unique to superhero books, and it makes it a ton of fun to work on, and also a challenge at the same time. So everything is fun and challenging.
It's all fun. It's so fun. Occasionally there will be stuff where it's like, oh, I really want this character to be available right now. And sometimes it's from dealing with a character not being available that interesting creative stuff can happen. It's just adding another problem to a story sometimes, and gosh darn it, that's where the drama lives, is in the problems and trying to figure out the problems. And so you have an opportunity as a writer to be like, oh, this continuity thing is causing me a problem for explaining how this story is going to work. But furthermore, it's creating a problem for the characters on the page. And, oh, maybe that's interesting. So it's, Becky said it, it's challenging and fun.
Yeah. That's it.
A lot of blabbing to get to challenging and fun.
What you were both like, we're going to do this, right? What drew you to this group of characters to sign on so quickly and be like, yeah, we're doing that? What was it that brought you there?
I love Gotham. And I think it was this time, like at 3 years writing Gotham Academy, just fall in love with the city, and it's like just so fun to come back to. And of course, I love Batgirls. Of course, Barbara Gordon is amazing. Cass has been like her stuff has been super fun. I was newer to stuff. I haven't read as much Stephanie Brown Batgirl, but after coming onto this book and reading more, stuff with her, it's easy to fall in love with her character too. So it's kind of a no-brainer when you love all the characters and it's in a place that you love. It's like, of course, this is going to be fun to do.
Yeah, I think maybe I was like a little bit more informed about the three characters going into it. So for me, that was the excitement, is, man, these three characters are like bound, they're unified by this title and this kind of mission that they've been on in their young lives. But they all engage with it so differently, and in some ways they're like, the one is the inverse of the other, and how they fight and how they think and how they investigate. So I just thought it would be too much fun, having them all together and seeing how that works. Particularly when we were talking with Jessica about our initial concept. I think with a group of girls like this, it's so easy to be and there's going to be like all this tension among the girls. It kind of can be exciting.
It's a book about friendship.
Yeah, we want it to be about in the movie Step Brothers, starring comedians. The best parts of that movie were when they're getting along, and we wanted to show what it's like when very different people get along.
Oh.
So that's kind of not a spoiler, but
Waka.
Waka, yeah. But hopefully people going into it will maybe have their perception of what it means to be a character in a comic book kind of changed a little bit, because everything is so melodramatic in comics. We just aren't going to have that part of the melodrama. We're going to have it be good. It's so rare to see women get along in comics, much less be friends.
Or just in media in general.
I've had a number of people. There was like a promotional page from 780 where it's Black Canary hugging Wonder Woman. And I've had so many people say like, "Thank you for showing women get along." And I was like, well,
she was excited Giant was back.
We didn't know that we were being weird by that. So Jessica loved the idea of, let's show friendship. Let's have a book about friendship. Let's make it weird. Let's make it real weird.
That sounds like a different take, and that's exciting because I'm a sucker for things like reconciliation and that kind of thing. When you have stories that deal with those types of concepts, so people getting along and being friendly is so much nicer than a team that's always infighting and we've seen that a million times.
There's so much darkness and bleak stuff going on around them. They live in Gotham, which is a terrible place to be. So yeah, having that as the backdrop, it's like there's so much drama here. It'll be fine. Oh, I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, this is like a YA book or whatever. And while it's certainly not, we won't turn you away.
It's not a mature reader's book.
It's not a mature reader's book, but it's also not a YA book. It's got the same rating that Wonder Woman has. It's got the same rating that Batman has. So yeah, we're gonna explore pretty dark, horrific themes, but it's gonna be Batgirls.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, let me give you the guys the opportunity to talk about some stuff that's not part of your DC Comics gig, because I know there's other stuff in your lives. Over the summer, I know, Becky, your Holy Diver stuff came out with that, and Michael, you've got this Mystery School Comics group. What can y'all tell us about what's going on in your non-DC lives?
I do a ton of illustration work. I've kind of cut down recently because it was too much to do. With you just have cover gigs and all this stuff, and with everything going on, my brain was so scattered. I was like trying to just finish everything and then just shut it down, shut it all down forever. So I spent the summer trying to like clear my plate of everything just so I could focus a little harder on, especially when you have books like Midnighter, Wonder Woman, Batgirls. It's so many different. Your brain is in so many different places, on so many different types of things, that throwing more work in there was really giving me trouble. It was giving me trouble trying to keep it all straight. And I'm like the most disorganized person. And like I'll forget where I put my glasses on if they're not like on my face. Just don't. It's awful. So that's kind of what I spent the summer doing.
Yeah.
Michael, you had a graphic novel come out.
Yeah, I had a graphic novel come out. It's called Double Walker, and you can pick it up on Comixology. It's part of their Comixology Originals line. Extremely proud of that book. And additionally, the book that my partner on Double Walker, Noah Bailey, and I did a year or two ago with Comixology Originals will be out and available for purchase through Dark Horse. It's called Tremor Dose, and it's a book about dreams and kind of a statement piece about consumer culture and my paranoia surrounding
Everybody
it.
should read Double Walker, especially now that it's spooky season. This is the spookiest comic that you will read.
Double Walker is like a horror situation.
Yeah.
It's
turn the lights down, but not low enough so that you'll strain your eyes. But make sure that it's like moody.
Don't strain your eyes.
Don't strain your eyes. You don't want the eyes strained.
Yeah.
I don't want to be responsible.
So Double Walker and Tremor Dose, both available on Comixology. Tremor Dose will be printed by Dark Horse in November. Anyway, Mystery School Comics Group is this collective that consists of Becky and I.
Yeah, it's a comic book collective.
It's a comic book collective. We make all kinds of things. We make our own zines, pins, patches. Becky did a deck of oracle cards that's kind of like a tarot type of situation. Very cool. Yeah, so people that are interested in seeing some of the stuff that we do that like we own entirely ourselves.
Yeah, it's self-published stuff. Just kind of, I would say it's like a hobby, but it's really not because it's all consuming. You can't see it, but over here on this side of the room, it's just boxes.
Oh.
Boxes and it's like, because of course we have a shipping station and like all of our stock and all the tubes, poster tubes, many poster tubes.
So you can check it out.
Yeah, please help us get rid of these boxes.
What is it? Mystery School at Big Cartel.
mysteryschool.bigcartel.com.
Go there, check it out. We've got new stuff coming up pretty soon, but for now there's plenty to look at, and we're constantly adding and taking away. So
we've got a newsletter that we don't ever send things out on. So if you getting newsletters,
you want to sign up
for that.
You might get a newsletter, an email,
like twice a year.
Once or twice a year, just letting you know about sales and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's all comics all the time over here. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And that's the exact kind of newsletter my wife likes, is the emails you don't get. Those are the kinds she likes.
I'm doing this thing. I get so much junk mail. If I don't check my mail for a day, which sometimes I don't check my mail for a couple of days, it's like 3 or 4 pages of just junk. So I've actually spent the last couple days deleting, like unsubscribing from emails. And like today I was like checking my mail this morning and I was like it's nice. So I highly recommend unsubscribing from our email list.
What?
Let's make your life better. Unsubscribe from all the junk mail. That's my tip for the day.
Subscribe to us and then
unsubscribe when you get the next email.
Yeah.
How to Have a Fulfilling Day by Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad.
Yeah, I feel bad that we even have a newsletter because they cause me so much stress. Feel bad about sending them out.
Well, we're getting. I got a couple more questions if you got the time. What's more fulfilling, creator-owned work or stuff you do for DC or Marvel where there are characters that you've known and loved over time? And is there a DC character you haven't worked on that you'd love to? Is there a dream assignment?
I think doing creator-owned stuff is undeniably easier, and it causes me less pain because people don't have a perception of how things are supposed to be. And if they show up and they say, "Hey, your character would never do this," I would say, "I made that up. It's my character. I own that. Leave me alone." So in that way, it's creator-owned is a lot better. But it is tons of fun, and it cannot there's such an incredible feeling to be able to touch these characters that have been with me for my whole life. So I wouldn't be able to pick a favorite out of the two different modalities. For a character that I'd really like to write that I haven't had the opportunity to do yet, Swamp Thing or Animal Man, or both at the same time. And not unfortunately, quite fortunately for us as readers, Swamp Thing is in great hands. So I want nothing to do with Swamp Thing right now. I don't want to show up and screw it up.
Yeah, you don't want to follow around Swamp Thing.
I'll follow him, but I don't want to stop him while he's going.
I was gonna say he's doing a great job on that book. Wow, that's
fabulous.
That's
Fabulous.
amazing. Yeah.
And Mike Perkins' art, come on.
Oh gosh,
Yeah,
yes.
It's a great time to be a Swamp Thing fan.
Yeah.
It is.
I'll take Animal Man. I don't think Animal Man's got a book right now. He needs somebody to advocate for him right now. How about you, dear?
I think doing my personal work is a lot more fulfilling in a way that like doing licensed work is never going to be. So it's an unfair question to ask because nothing can compare to living in your own little world in your head. That said, like what Michael said, being a part of these teams and working on characters that you've grown up reading is like, there's something so fun and special about that. It's a totally different thing. And it's so much fun to be able to contribute to like a legacy, and to put ideas down that hopefully you'll see people picking back up. It's so great to put an idea out there or a character or a plot point and then see someone else pick it up and be like, oh, I want to use that in my story. It's so much fun. And to be able to do the same thing, there's a collaborativeness that you're never going to get when you're working by yourself. Obviously. So that's a thing. I would say Solomon Grundy, but I actually wrote a Solomon Grundy story recently that's going to come out in Legends of the Dark Knight in like a week or two, maybe in print. It was one of the digital comics. So that's actually seeing print, which is super cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. That's hard because DC, not a lot of cool stuff. I don't know. I haven't done already. I would just work on more Batman, obviously, I think. Just which I've already done, but why not do some more? That's the easy way out.
Well, is there something you're most proud of what you've done? Is there one thing that stands out for you, or do you sort of see it as a body of work that you're really proud of without anything particularly taking the forefront?
It's so hard to say. When I look back over at my DC stuff specifically, it might have to be Gotham Academy, and that's so silly because it was like it felt like a creator-owned book because we made up all those characters, but I think that's why. I think it's because we made up the whole thing was like the school, the characters, the plot. It was just purely its own thing, but it was uniquely Gotham. And working with Carl Kerschel and Brendan Fletcher was so much fun. I don't know. I think that's that.
Michael, how about you?
Oh, I don't know. Anytime a comic book happens, it's like a miracle for me. Just it happened. I think of all the stuff that I've done, the thing that I'm most proud of is a book called Frown that I did. It was just me and my older brother back before we knew how to make comics. We went to Alternative Press Expo in San Francisco and saw all these zines and stuff. And we were like, wow, we could do this. Like, we can figure this thing out. So on the drive back from San Francisco to where I was living at the time, I came up with this idea. My brother agreed to draw it, and it was the first thing that I ever like fully invested myself in and worked hard at. I wrote this little 40-page comic. My brother drew it. We printed way too many. The first time you make a comic, you think, like, well, we should probably print like 5,000 copies of it. Sold like 5, gave some away.
So what you're saying is there's some copies still available right now that they can order from you on the.
You know what? I don't think that I
We've
want.
only got a couple. They're
Yeah.
in the boxes.
I've got a couple in a box. Every now and then I'll bring them to shows. At this point, it's more of like a representation of, hey, like, look how bad this is, man. It's really poorly written. I've grown a lot as a writer. Just, you know, but it remains the thing that I'm speaking poorly about it, but it remains the thing that I'm most proud of, because it was the first comic that I made, the first one that I made little comics before that, but this was the first one where I really was like, I'm gonna learn how to do this and I'm gonna give it my best effort, and that, you know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step or whatever. that was my step, you know, that was me stretching and pushing myself. And since then, I've made a lot of things. So, yeah, that's the thing I'm most proud of. If I didn't do that one thing, I never would have done the next.
The first thing has to be special. I mean, that first time you do it, whether it's writing or drawing, there it is. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
It's scary. It's scary because, like, we don't want to do something without knowing how to do it. But the way that you learn how to do something is by doing it wrong and correcting yourself. It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to need training wheels. You will fall down.
Yeah, except like with a comic, other people are gonna read you with those training wheels on and like with a falling down if you do.
Yeah.
So I think there's that fear of like, you know, oh God, I have to do this thing. I'm not sure about my skills and I have to put it out there. And I think as you grow as a creator, you know, and learn techniques and, you know, if you're an artist, like your draftsmanship gets better, but that feeling never really goes away, you know. So I even have that, you know, when you put out a new book, you just have to, I've just got better at like ignoring it. I don't know if it's necessarily a feeling that like stage fright almost before a new book comes out.
Excellent. Well, do you guys have any con appearances scheduled? The cons are starting back up, at least somewhat. New York was over the past weekend.
Yeah, New York, I'm feeling a little bit of FOMO from that. But I'm doing Baltimore in a couple weeks.
Okay.
And I thought about doing New York, I was like, I can't do 2 cons in a row. Yeah, I cannot do it. I just, even hanging out with friends, I'll get like exhausted by it. So I'm just not used to talking to people yet, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll go to Baltimore. I don't know that they want me.
I would like you there.
They certainly haven't asked me, but sometimes I just kind of show up to these things and I will behave as Becky's manservant, and they let me in sometimes. I'll just, if I'm on my best behavior, they let me stay. But we're doing Thought Bubble in
November
in the UK. So if you want to fly to the UK and hang out with us there, cool. If you're already out there, we'll find you. We'll find you. But I think those are the only cons that we're gonna do this year. Big time hurt seeing all this New York Comic Con stuff. I was so sad. I really wanted to be there and to have all that fun. But when we were considering it, we didn't know what the world was going to look like. We didn't know safety protocols, this, that, and the other. And who knows? Like a week from now, a couple days from now, we could find out everyone there got Delta virus or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's
my sister just got it.
There's so much anxiety. There's so much anxiety about potentially putting ourselves in harm's way, putting other people in harm's way, doing something to encourage people to come out and hang out in a giant crowd. I don't know if I want that type of burden of culpability.
I mean, there is like, I think a lot of conventions are being very responsible.
Yeah,
with it,
I'm not judging people's behavior or the con organizers. I'm just trying to explain why we aren't necessarily jumping right at every con opportunity that pops up. It's just there's a lot to consider.
Yeah, so we have 2 this year, and that seemed like a good amount to get back into.
So yeah, catch us in Baltimore or Becky. I might stay home with the cats.
We got 2 cats.
Yeah.
Well, I hope con season gets back to normal and you guys make it to North Carolina again.
Oh yeah, that was so much fun.
North Carolina is so great and such it's always so much fun in North Carolina. I was trying to think of like I started losing my train of thought because I was like, man, were you in North Carolina when you pitched the Doom Patrol story to Gerard? But no, you were in England.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think North Carolina was like the first show that I ever did where I had actual like professionally published comics. Normally I would do guys like with Xerox zines and like bumper stickers that I made on Kinko's or whatever. So yeah, it was like the first time I ever signed my name on a Doom Patrol comic, and that was neat.
That's right.
Yeah, just got caught up in memory bliss.
Well, guys, I want to thank you again so much. I really enjoyed talking to you today. I'm certainly looking forward to Batgirls and keeping reading Wonder Woman as well. And I wish you both the best of success with that and all your other endeavors that we've mentioned. Hopefully, people will reach out and find some of those other projects and get some more Cloonan and Conrad goodness.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk again sometime soon. We've got a lot of interesting things in the works, and can't wait to hear what you think about.
Well, I look.
Batgirls.
Oh yeah.
I look forward to it.
Thank you for having us. It's been a bunch of fun.
You're welcome. I look forward to everything. Thank you so much. I look forward to both because I get to review both for the website, so I'm really excited about that. I'm eagerly awaiting getting a shot. So,
Great.
Thank you both again.
You too.
Thank you. You too. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.